One of the most interesting things, no, we're not gonna address how it's been almost a year since the last video. One of the most interesting things about social culture is the mentality that a consumer has responsibility over the success of a product. Like, apparently consumers are the ones responsible of whether or not a company keeps giving the things we want. An argument that I can understand where people are coming from. However, there are moments where a company takes advantage of its fanbase's good faith. The title can already tell you where this is going. On June 23rd, Sega will be releasing Sonic Origins, a collection of games that represent the Genesis CD era of Sonic the Hedgehog, with Sonic 1, Sonic 2, Sonic CD, and Sonic 3 and Knuckles, all in one little package, which will have more features, new resolutions, and new animated cutscenes. At the time of this video, the game hasn't really come out, so we will not discuss topics that involve the game's actual quality and whether or not it's worthy of people's time and money. However, despite not being already available for sale, there have been a couple of decisions made by Sega that put me on such an edge to create this video. But not only were the decisions what raised my eyebrows, it's the weirdest comments that I have seen from fans in order to defend them. Because we all need to defend the multi-million-dollar company against the mean comments online. And we're gonna start with a thread made by Master Realm regarding Sega's decision to not have Knuckles on Sonic CD, which is a piece of information that we have already been told to digest, and something that made people start questioning why bother spending $40 on this collection when the content is potentially close to the $5 version that's already on Steam. And anyways, Master Realm discusses a couple of points that I really want to discuss. Some of them seem more valid than others, but two of them are honestly pretty terrible if you ask me. But we'll leave those for later. Let's go on a certain scale. Sonic 3 and Knuckles sprites cover half of the actions he can do in Sonic CD, which doesn't seem that much of a solid argument considering Tails was added, which required doing assets for the special stages, as well as just having him fly around and take advantage of his abilities for exploration, which is why people argue is the reason why Knuckles fits CD's sense of exploration pretty well, actually. And since Sonic Origins is going to have a coin system for you to unlock content by playing the game, he argues that the work done to the other games is apparently limited to this system, and that's okay. The games are solid and these versions are stellar. We don't know that. This series of tweets were posted on April 23rd. This video is being posted on May, and the game is coming out at the end of June. Unless you already have access to the full version of this collection, there's no real way for us to know if these versions are stellar per se. The only thing we can assume is that because the developers behind this collection are part of the team that worked on the mobile versions, it's pretty possible that we're gonna at least get that, but on console, which is something that I know people were asking for. While the price they're asking is a bit high in some regions, we can always wait and get Origins for $25, like Sonic Colors Ultimate. Ha! Now, I don't like talking about whether or not a game or any form of product is worth its price tag. It's really not that different than trying to decide whether or not your favorite artist online is worth the price of their commissions. Creators have the right to put the price they see fitting for their work, just as much as consumers have the right to decide whether or not they see the product being worthy of the money they make. You're not obligated to sell your game on a price you don't want, and you also don't have the obligation to buy something you find unworthy. So yeah, for the most part, I can understand where this statement is coming from. But this is as nice as I am willing to go, because the next two arguments are the reason why I decided to call this an AGM log rather than being a gray line video, because I am not gonna be neutral on this at all. The take goes like this. Adding stuff means you have to QA test, which stands for quality assurance, in other words making sure that this feature is up to the product's quality. So actually invest the money. Sega hires Stealth, the team in charge of this game and one of the team members on Sonic Mania, who as I said also worked on the mobile versions of Sonic 1 and 2, to remake Sonic 3 and Knuckles. That's it! Okay, before anything, I'm assuming 100% that these are only OP's opinions, therefore not actual statements on Sega's part. And I'm also assuming that he's only encouraging people to not lose interest in a product he cares about. That's completely fine, and I don't want anything to get towards him beyond this video in and of itself. Like, we're just making a discussion, not a fucking hate campaign. You know where this is going, so let's fucking do it. Excuse me for expecting a company to invest money into making a product, hoping to get people's money out of it in the process. Why is it apparently too much to ask for a company to give me a product that seems worthy of my money, but still expecting me to put the money on that purchase? And you might think, well, he's not saying you have to buy the game. Really? Really? Because there's still one take here. But do consider getting the collection when you can. While Sega Japan is a bit stubborn, they are not dumb. Classic Sonic sells well, and the good reception of this product is the reminder they need that we still want our 2D games back.
What?
Okay, let's run down the list because there's quite a couple things to digest just from this alone. Number 1. Sega Japan knows Classic Sonic sells well, otherwise you have to explain to me how they don't know that and still made Sonic Generations, the Sonic 4 games, the Taxman ports on mobile, Taxman Sonic CD, Classic Sonic being on Sonic Forces, and oh man, there was one more, like, oh yeah, Sonic Mania! Number 2, Sonic Mania. One of the best Sonic games out there in terms of reception and critical acclaim. Constantly being praised as the company knowing what they're doing and also getting a lot of positive feedback since they got fans to work on a mainline game. That wasn't enough of a reminder. That wasn't enough. You need the extra purchase. Number 3, and finally, this being probably my biggest gripe here and my personal advice to people. Only personal, no facts, or at the very least, I'm going to try to explain myself on this. Never, ever buy something you're not interested in buying in hopes of a promise, especially one that hasn't been made yet. Because I've heard this argument before. With Sonic Mania actually, and how we were supposed to buy the game in order to show Sega where the money is and to push for more original 2D games, instead of just selling nostalgia like with Generations and Forces. Buy the Mania to get more Mania, and what do we get? Sonic Origins. Sure, it has people from Sonic Mania involved in the project, but it's still Sonic 1, 2, 3 and Knuckles and CD, games that have been ported on more than one occasion before. That's what, as of 2022, 5 years after the same argument was made to support Sonic Mania, that's what has been given out to us as fans of this particular part of Sonic. So, I'm sorry, I don't have faith in Sega actually getting the correct message when people buy their products. Also, and honestly, this goes beyond Sonic Origins, but I'm not a fan of the idea of holding the stuff you might actually want, like a freaking hostage situation, in order to make you buy things you don't actually want, without being sure that you'll actually get what you want eventually. Remember Teen Titans Go to the Movies? A very solid film that was actually better than a lot of the show's standards. That movie and some of the staff members went out of their way to tell audiences that they should support the film if you wanted to see the original Teen Titans back. And people did get the original Teen Titans on another Teen Titans Go movie that was not mainly focused on the original characters nor the original story. But thanks for the money, you fool! Remember the Sly Cooper film? Were you looking forward to that film? Did it look interesting to you? Well, fuck you for not getting us enough people to watch the Ratchet and Clank movie. Sly Cooper cancelled. You see how narcissistic or at least flat out manipulative it is for companies to hold onto the promise of something you might actually want, as long as you buy the things you don't actually want? Buy our shit or else you won't get the good stuff. We promise it's gonna be good, so give us the money now so we can then sell you that too. And yeah, you can buy it at the price you want whenever you want. We promise we won't cancel anything until then. If a seller of any kind doesn't manage to convince you to buy a product, you should not feel obligated to buy it in any form. Plain and simple. And the idea of blaming customers for the seller not delivering at getting a product worth the investment is not the consumer's fault. You want a good example of this? The Sonic movie. The very first one, when they promoted the well-known bad design, which caused the studio to take extra time to fix it, promising it will be better, and they did. Guess what? They made money and got support from people. Why? Because they delivered something worth supporting before asking for people's money. And I'm pretty sure that Paramount had to invest money on fixing what people said was not working with the design. in order to make a product that people wanted to actually see. Instead of saying, yeah, we could put effort, but that takes money, and we are supposed to make money, not spend it, you know? But okay. I've been pretty negative on those takes, and we're done with that. At the end of the day, if you, for whatever reason, have never bought these games before, but the price tag or the content offer doesn't convince you to get Sonic Origins specifically, you can always just go to Steam and get the original version. Ah, you sweet son of a goddamn asshole! This is what made me stop working on scripts of the eventual release of the Gray Line and actually make this video. Because this, in my eyes, is nothing but a red flag that Sonic Origins will not be able to be a definitive experience worth the extra purchase and extra money, in case you already own this game somehow. Let's start with doing some math and dates, okay? In 2020, Sega made the statement that the Sonic franchise had sold over 140 million copies throughout its entire history up until 2016. Like, we're talking every single game from its entire history as an existing IP, that's the number of copies that have been sold. Which sounds like a huge number, but let's remember that there are around 8 billion people in the world, so I don't think it's crazy to think there are possible customers that have never bought these games before, right? I just want you to be sure that you are following me on this trip, okay? So let's get even crazier on the trip. There are approximately 120 million users on Steam alone, so we can also easily assume that not every user on the platform has bought all of the Sonic games on Steam. Hell, according to Sales, if you wanna trust that source, none of these 4 games have even broke a million purchases. So it's pretty clear there are quite enough people who have not bought these games before. Where am I going with this? The fact that Sega decided to delist the previous versions of these games throws me the assumption that they don't have enough faith that Sonic Origins will convince people to buy them based on its own qualities. So in order to make sure sales don't get missed, let's just not give potential buyers any other option but to buy this collection or to get fisted without Vaseline. Now, to cut some slack, there will still be some versions around there, like in Sonic Ages or Sonic 1 and 2 and the NSO. But yeah, I think that's it. But you wanna know why this puts me on a certain edge? Well, because there was another collection that was claiming to be the definitive way to enjoy the games included on it, to the point where they decided to remove the original versions from the stores. And that's the infamous GTA Trilogy, the Definitive Edition. A collection that had so many bugs, so many weird choices, and overall not a product worth saying, oh yeah, I'd rather play this than the originals, like totally. Even with all of the patches and reworked models that make any version of this collection a more enjoyable experience, I will honestly say that, there were still elements and choices through the product in and of itself that caused fans and consumers to be critical of not only the fact that the collection didn't have to be in such poor state during the release, but also on the fact that they knew the product wasn't gonna be that good. So they decided to prevent potential buyers of having other, probably better, options to experience these games. Not to mention that there's a bit of annoyance with just the idea of removing content in order to promote the new one. Remember how people tend to say that remakes of movies or games apparently ruin a franchise only to meet backlash like, the originals are still there, stop complaining. Well, now we have 2 cases where you cannot actually say that. Now, do I think Sonic Origins will be as bad as GTA Trilogy Definitive Edition? I hope not, because if Sega is good at something, it's at re-releasing these games. I expect functional to be the bare minimum, but with the previously mentioned case of a company doing this, I cannot help but perceive that choice as a sign that the company doesn't have enough faith on its own product. Now, and just to conclude this entire ramble, if you're interested in getting Sonic Origins, I do recommend you to get it. Please treat yourself with the things you want to get. Don't let what's ultimately my own paranoia and overall bullshit to prevent you from getting things you are interested in. But I don't think we should be the ones responsible for a company's decisions based on our own purchases, assuming that was ever a thing in the first place. After all, History has shown that just because you support something doesn't mean people actually listen to you. And I hope you get everything you want from Sonic Origins whenever you decide to buy it. Support the products that you want, and yeah, totally speak with your wallet, as long as you're also speaking for yourself. Thank you for listening.